Hi everyone, it's Mel here and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, this is a requested video and we are going to be talking about the Chanel reissue bag versus the Chanel classic flap bag. So I get asked the question quite a lot, which one should I choose? Should I go for the reissue or should I go for the classic flap bag? So in today's video, I'm going to break it up into three parts. So the first part is we're going to get up close and personal and we're going to look at all the details of the bags and I'm going to go through what the differences are because there are four main differences. And then the second part, I'm going to do a quick what fits in my reissue bag versus my medium large classic flap because those two are the ones that I've got and they're the most similar in size. Also, in part three, I'm just going to do some mod shots because you guys have told me it's really, really helpful. So I'll just do a direct side-by-side comparison of what it looks like worn and the differences of what it looks worn. So just before we get up close and personal about the differences, let's quickly talk about the sizes. So this is my reissue bag and this, as we know it, is called the 225. However, Chanel terminology is different. They call this the small. So we know 224, 225, 226, and 227. However, Chanel calls 224 as the mini, 225 as the small, which is the one I have, 226 is called the medium, and then 227 is called the large. Okay, so how does this compare to the classic flaps? Because we're all much more familiar with the classic flap sizes. So the 224, which Chanel terminology is mini, is in between the rectangular mini and the classic small. The 225, which is the one I've got, which Chanel calls size small, is in between the classic flap small and the classic flap medium large. The 226, which Chanel calls medium, is in between the classic flap medium large and the jumbo size. And the 227, which Chanel calls the large, is in between the classic flap jumbo and Maxi. So I hope that makes sense because when I was choosing my reissue, I got so confused. So just remember, if you go into the store and ask, oh, can I have a look at a 225? They're not going to know. They don't use that terminology. It's mini, small, medium, and large. Just wanted to show a really quick bird's eye view of these three bags, which you saw just before, because it was hard to tell the differences before. But so this is my classic flap small. That's my reissue in small. And that is my classic flap in medium to large. So really the main difference is the length. I'm going to list all these lengths in the description box. But this one here is 23.5 centimeters in length. My reissue is 24 centimeters in length. And my medium large is 25.5 centimeters in length. Depth-wise, they're pretty much the same. And in terms of height-wise, these two are pretty much the same height. And the small is like about 1.5 centimeters, shorter. So they're very, very similar. However, when I'm going to be talking about and comparing a side-by-side, I will actually be comparing these two because these two are the most similar in size. So let's get to what are the differences. So there are four main differences between the classic flap and the reissue. The first one being the lock. On the classic flap, we've got the double C interlocking lock. So you would just open it up like that and that's how it closes. Let's move to the reissue. So on the reissue, this lock is a rectangular lock and this is how it opens. There's actually Chanel inscribed down the bottom and it's still a turn lock. But this is called the Mademoiselle lock, and it's called the Mademoiselle lock because Coco Chanel never married. The second difference, let's move back to the classic flap. The second difference are the chains. On the classic flap, it has an interlaced chain. So it's got metal and it's got leather all throughout the chain. Now, if we look at the reissue, this chain is called the Bijou chain. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but that's got no leather. And yeah, it's just all metal. It's got such beautiful detail. You probably can't tell, but in all these middle parts, can you see that little bits of detailing? It is just gorgeous. The third difference is the leather. Now, most reissues are in a distressed, aged calf skin. So can you see with my one all these lines and everything through it? That is normal and that is part of the leather. There's nothing wrong with it. And each reissue will have different characteristics and different lines placed everywhere through it. And even though the reissue can come in other materials too, it can come, in metallics and everything, predominantly it's in this aged, distressed calf skin. Now, for the classic flaps, the two most common types are caviar, which you can see on my pink bag here, or lambskin. Likewise, with the classic flaps, it can come in a variety of materials as well, from suede to just sueded caviar, just a lot of patent things like that. But mostly it comes in caviar and lambskin. So that's the third difference. And the final difference is the construction. Now, if you look on the sides of the bag, see how with the classic flap, it's got a flat bottom like that. So it sits flat. With the reissue, it's got a V-shaped bottom, and that's how it's specifically been created. So you can see a line through there and it's got this V-shaped bottom. And down the bottom, if you actually look at the bag like this, it looks like it's got a saggy bottom, but it's been made that way. It's not a fault. However, if you really want to, you can sort of push it in to make it more rigid and flat. However, for me personally, I'm keeping it with the saggy bottom. So that's the reissue. And then if you compare it to the classic flap, obviously this has got the rigid bottom and it just sits flat. So that is the fourth difference. Besides the bottom, everything else is the same. So both have the double flap with the zip like that. As you can see, both have the back pocket. So inside and how they look outside, they all look the same, just besides the bottom. So what fits in the Reissue 225, otherwise known as the small? Let's take a look. So I've just bought a variety of things and we'll see. So the first thing I've got is the Louis Vuitton mini pochette. And if I put that in there, you can see it takes up most of the space. But look, let's just see what else. Then I've got the Chanel zippy coin purse wallet. I've kind of just put lots of cards in there, can hold quite a bit. Let's just put that there. And then I have got my Hermes Bastia coin purse. Put that there. I definitely need my phone. Let's see if we can put that in there. So I've got an iPhone 6 Plus with a small case. So you can see it's pretty full already. And another must is, let's just see, it can also fit. I mean, in terms of my LV mini pochette, I put makeup and everything in there, but just say you didn't put makeup in there. You still have space for, this is a Chanel lipstick. I never use these back pockets as lipsticks. I know that's supposed to be a lipstick holder, but I never use it as a lipstick holder. And then I've got a MAC lipstick, so that fits in there too. I will definitely need to put my keys in there. So that will just go there. So it's pretty packed. I'll just see if I can fit one more. I've got my Dior card case. And let's just shove that there. And let's see. So I don't tend to do up this top button. Okay. So it does do up, but it's pretty fat. If you have a look on the side, I mean, it's not bulging. Can you see with the double flap there? It's, you know, it's not bulging or anything, but that I would say that's at max capacity. So it fits quite a bit. Definitely all your essentials. I probably wouldn't pack it this much, but so that you know that 225 can fit all that in it. Okay, so those are all the items that I fit in my reissue 225, the small. Let's see how much we can fit into the classic flap medium large. So I reckon it's going to be pretty similar. So I've got my LV mini pochette, got my little Chanel zippy coin purse. I'm going to put that in the front pocket, my phone, my Bastia, my Dior card case, 2 lippies, 1, 2, my keys, and it's got a teensy bit more space. So I reckon I've got my LV little clay that could fit in there too. That's what it looks like. So it's pretty full. You probably could put one more lippy up here or maybe a really small pack of tissues. Likewise, I don't do that up and that closes fine. It's also pretty fat too, but it's not crazy. It's not completely bulging, as you can see. You can still see that slight line. There's the double flap. There's nothing up the top, but that would be probably max capacity. So really the difference between both is probably the only thing that I couldn't fit into my reissue was the clay. And this probably can fit another lippy and maybe a small pack of tissues. Thought it would be interesting to see how much both weigh. So both of these are completely empty. So the classic flap weighs 630 grams. Okay. So let's see how much the reissue 225 or the small weighs. So this bag weighs 638 grams. So they pretty much weigh the same. Even though the reissue is a little bit smaller than the classic flap medium large, I think the difference is because this chain is all metal, whereas in the classic flap, it's got the leather and the metal. So weight-wise, about the same. So let's start off with the classic flap. This is what the classic flap medium large looks on me. For reference, I'm about 5'5". So that is just slung on the shoulder there like that. And this is how I wear my medium large. I think it's a really good length just as like a nice shoulder bag. Now, if I crossbody it, I don't ever wear it like this. I think it is way too short. It looks a bit silly. Can you tell? Look, just looks a bit weird. Obviously, if you are shorter or you're more petite, this could work, but on me, it comes up pretty short. I feel a bit awkward. And then you can also double the straps up like that and also wear it on the shoulder like that as well. So that works. To be honest, I don't really carry this bag like this, but it definitely can. It doesn't sort of dig into your armpits or anything, but that's what it looks like. So if we look at the reissue, this is the reissue slung on the shoulder. So this is what it looks like from the front. And this is what it looks like from the side. So already you can tell it already sits lower. I think even just slung on the shoulder like this, it's fine. And this is how I mainly wear my reissue 225 or the small in Chanel terminology. And why I ended up going for this size, because I wasn't sure between this size or the bigger size, which is the medium or the 226, is because I love how it looks crossbody. So I think this bag here, you can wear it crossbody too. Well, for me, for probably people around my height or shorter, even if you're a little bit tall, it still sits okay. I mean, I'm not sure if you think that looks too short, but I feel like it's okay. And I actually like the fact that it's got this V-shaped bottom because it sits really flush against my body. So I have been wearing it two ways, crossbody like this, and I've also been wearing it just slung on the shoulder, and I think both ways work. So it's really up to you. I think it's best always to go into store and try it on and have a bit of a play, but yeah, that's what it looks like. Now let's have a look. Oh, before that, I almost forgot. You can also double strap it and put it on the shoulder. So you can already tell it's a longer chain. Just the gap between the armpit and the bag is bigger, as you can see. So let's do a side-by-side comparison. Reissue and the medium large. As I've said, these two are the most similar in size, hence why I'm comparing these two. So first off, the biggest difference is the chain. Can you just see how much longer the reissue chain length is than the medium flap? So if I wear them, I've got the classic flap here. So this is how I wear it. This works really well, I think, for any height. Same with this reissue. See how much longer this one is? And likewise, I wear this slung on my shoulder as well, and I think that would work for any height. So it's really the chain length. Let's try crossbody. So crossbody, I think this looks a bit weird, but with the reissue, I think she looks okay because she still sits a teensy bit short, but it's fine. I think it's fine as a crossbody for the 225. So that is the reissue, and that is the classic flap. So yeah, chain length, a really big difference for both these bags. And then just very quickly as well, if you double it up, you can see the differences in chain length here. So in terms of a shoulder bag, if you double strap it, that's where it sits. Can you see? That sits a lot higher, and this one sits lower. I actually personally prefer to wear this one double strapped because it just, I don't know, I think it just feels a little bit more comfortable. So that is what it looks like double strapped. So why is this bag actually called the reissue? Well, Karl Lagerfeld actually relaunched this bag in 2005. So for those of you that weren't aware, this is actually Coco Gabrielle's original design. So it was called the 2.55 because she launched the bag in February of 1955. And it was in the quilted design, not this chevron as you see, which I have. This chevron pattern is new to the whole reissue range. But now the term reissue is just given to any of those bags that had the original design. And what I mean by original design is it had the Mademoiselle lock, it had this, bejeweled chain. So that's what the original design is, because that's what Coco Chanel originally designed the bag to be. Back then, I think they said it was originally in jersey, and then it changed to lambskin. So that's just a little tidbit of information. But yeah, a lot of people really love this bag for the pure fact that it was Gabrielle Chanel's original design. Now, I think I've mentioned this in a previous video, but there are a couple of theories why it's got this saggy bottom. Now, when I bought this in London, the essay told me that it was because Gabrielle Chanel designed this as a clutch. So she wanted it closer to the body because back then they used to use bags as clutches more. Who knows? Another theory is that when Karl Lagerfeld found this bag, he found it all folded up. So when he relaunched it, he just launched it exactly the way he found it, hence the bottom, that sort of folded V bottom. I don't know what the theories are, but those are the two theories that I've heard of. Personally, as I mentioned before, I am going to keep it the way that it has been made, with this fold down the bottom. I kind of like it that it is like that. And a lot of people as well, you can sort of push the bottom down and you can create that flat sort of bottom, but personally I really like it and I'm keeping it that way. I also like the way that it sits closer to the body. So with my reissue, this is the 225, and I think most people either get this size or the next size up, which is called the 226. And as you saw weight wise, it's about the same as the medium large. So I think if you are quite a light packer, you saw how much you could fit in. This size is great. I personally like how this looks on my frame, crossbody and on the shoulder, because that's how I wear this bag. However, if you are someone that wants a little bit more space, then I suggest going for the next size up, because it's not quite as big as the jumbo, but it does fit a lot more in there. So then you ask me, Mel, which would you choose? Would you go for the reissue or would you go for the classic flap? Now that's a real toughie, because originally I was such a die-hard classic flap girl. And in terms of my Chanel collection, I think nearly all of them are classic flaps, because to me, I liked the CC turn lock. It just was very, I don't know, maybe it just screamed Chanel to me. But just as the years go by, I've really come to appreciate the reissue. So it's really tough now. I actually love them both. I think maybe even almost the same. I love the fact that this has that history behind it, that, Coco Chanel created this herself, and it's definitely more understated. And this bag here, this is the modern version of this, and that's what Karl created it when he, created this one in, I think it was 1983. So I love both. I know that might be a bit of a cop-out, but I love both at the moment the same. There are definitely reissue fans, and there are definitely the classic flap fans out there. In terms of price, these two well, in Australia, they retail for the same price. I would say in most of the world, they would be very similar, if not the same, because as I mentioned before, construction-wise, they're pretty much identical. So I think it really just boils down to personal preference. Are you the type that you like, something a bit more minimalistic, a little bit more understated, you don't like, logos? Then I would go for the reissue. But if you like the, I guess it's more recognizable, it's more, I don't know, quintessential, more Chanel, I guess, because people know it. This CC turn lock, if you wear this bag, people know you're wearing a Chanel bag. If you wear this bag, not everyone will know that you're wearing a Chanel bag. So it's really up to you. Both of them are beautiful bags, and there's obviously a reason why both are in my collection. I think the question is sort of also what size you would go for. I was sort of debating between this size here, the 225, which is the small, or the 226, which is the next size up. And I am really glad that I did go for this size, because one, I love the color, and two, it fits everything that I need. But if you go to the 226, it is a great size too, and this just won out by a little bit. But because I love the reissue so much, I'm hoping in future maybe to add the 226, maybe in the black, to my collection, but let's just see. So guys, I hope that was useful. I hope you sort of saw the differences between the reissue and the classic flap, and what fits inside and how it looks. I hope that's helped those of you maybe deciding, should I buy the classic flap or should I buy the reissue? Or maybe some of you guys have the classic flap or the reissue and you're thinking, are they different enough to add another one to my collection? Obviously, I think that there's room for both, because I see the beauty in both of them and the fact that I love Chanel. But it's just something for you to consider if you don't have either or. So thank you so much for watching again. If you like this video, would love if you could give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below, are you team reissue or are you team classic flap? That would be interesting. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I've also listed all the dimensions in the description box below to help you. And also, I've just listed my Instagram account. For those of you on Instagram, would love if you could follow me too. So thanks again, guys. I will see you in my next video. Bye.